I needed my demigoddess wife to snap the tail on for me. And not everyone is as blessed as me. Hailing from Super7’s Toho Ultimates Wave 3, Godzilla toy line, 1200 degrees Celsius Godzilla and Destoroyah are true sights to behold. These figures sport dynamic designs, articulation, and are huge, which is fitting because they're based on giant monsters. Godzilla stands 8 inches tall and is 14 inches long. Destoroyah looms over him with a staggering 9-inch height, 14 inches in length. On their respective release dates, Godzilla's price tag clocked in at $84.99 before tax, while Destoroyah's value came in at around $109.99. That seems kinda spendy. Are they worth it? Right from the start, the craftsmanship is awe-inspiring. The boxes alone are breathtaking. As a collector, keeping the box is always a challenge. They take up a lot of space. Given how massive these figures are, the boxes are quite large. But I must say, I think the boxes are worth keeping around. Let's talk about 1200 degrees Celsius Godzilla. To avoid any confusion, I'll be referring to it simply as Meltdown Godzilla for the remainder of this video, as I think it's simpler to say as opposed to 1200 degrees Celsius Godzilla. Meltdown Godzilla looks stunning in a frightening, ghoulish way. Godzilla's death at the end of 1995's Godzilla vs. Destoroyah remains one of the series' most memorable moments. I never thought I'd see the day where we'd get a highly detailed figure of Godzilla's meltdown state, with his ribcage exposed, half his face as a skeleton, and an arm that looked like it had melted down to the bone. Easily the most defining attribute about this Godzilla figure is without a doubt its translucent paint. With a little light source, you can make your Godzilla glow in the most practical way possible. From using this for display purposes to adding a dynamic glowing effect to your fan film, there's so much potential here. The sculpt for Meltdown Godzilla looks great. It'll definitely stand out in your collection. Super7’s Destoroyah seems to give SH Monster Arts Destoroyah a good run for its money. Despite appearing slimmer than its movie portrayal, Super7’s Destoroyah is without question a hulking, intimidating beast. Destoroyah both looks and feels like a giant monster. However, there are a few issues with the figure which I'll address in a moment. First, let me just say up front, this is my favorite Destoroyah figure thus far. What it might lack in detail, it makes up for in opposability. And I don't think it's lacking in the details department either. Super7 has given us an awesome, terrifying looking Destoroyah. Meltdown Godzilla's articulation, despite being limited, is acceptable. The legs have decent rotation, and the arms move well, albeit getting the joints to bend without running the risk of breaking the toy was a constant fear. The tail had more flexibility than I was expecting, which was a pleasant surprise. Honestly, it doesn't surprise me that Meltdown Godzilla's articulation is limited. Given its nightmarish appearance, which, let's face it, does most of the heavy lifting, your Meltdown Godzilla can be the standout in your collection simply by existing. Surprisingly, I give Destoroyah's articulation score a solid A. I wasn't expecting to be able to effortlessly open and fold Destoroyah's wings, twist and turn its arms, legs, and joints. The tail has decent articulation to boot. The fact this humongous, heavy figure has so much flexibility is amazing. It seems like most of the time when a large, bulky figure has a dynamic range of motion, it collapses under its own weight, making articulation possible but fleeting, as it won't stay in its respective pose for long. But Super7 Destoroyah seems to be a big exception to this. Maintaining dynamic poses while sporting an impeccable range of articulation is the main reason why I'm recommending Super7's Destoroyah action figure. Meltdown Godzilla only has one accessory, and it's a doozy. We're gifted with an extremely well-made Godzilla skull. Gotta admit, I never thought we'd ever get a Godzilla skull as a bonus, but here we are. It may not seem like much, Personally, it would have been cool if we could have peeled off a dorsal spike or two, or removed parts of skin tissue to expose a burning rib cage. But hey, regardless, the Godzilla skull is neat and is a solid execution on a great concept. Unlike Meltdown Godzilla, Destoroyah is not limited to only one accessory. Destoroyah has a swappable head with an open mouth and 3 Destoroyah aggregates. Thankfully, the detail and paint quality of the additional head is just as good as the rest of the body, so there are no inconsistencies there. Okay, I'm looking at my Super7’s Meltdown Godzilla and can't believe it's real. Who'd have thought one of the most iconic scenes in the entire Godzilla mythos would be immortalized as an action figure? Godzilla was my hero growing up. Seeing my idol dying in the most horrific way left an impression, which is an understatement. Today, Godzilla's death scene, and by proxy this action figure, still invokes an echo of sadness, but it nonetheless remains an important chapter in Godzilla's legacy. Granted, the figure has flaws. Some of the articulation is stiff. At times, I'm worried I might actually snap an arm off. Nonetheless, I'm in awe. Meltdown Godzilla is both amazing and terrifying. Buy it if you can. As previously mentioned, there are issues I have with the Destoroyah figure. All things considered, it's a fantastic model. However, it's at times extremely difficult to snap its swappable head and tail into place. I needed my demigoddess wife to snap the tail on for me, and not everyone is as blessed as me. Furthermore, I think the manufacturers should have stuck to one head with the option of being able to open and close the mouth. Discrepancies aside, Super7’s Destoroyah is my favorite action figure of the notorious kaiju villain thus far. Overall, Super7 has knocked it out of the park. They've exceeded my high expectations by delivering 2 stunning figures. I'm so happy to have them in my collection. I can't recommend Super7's Toho Ultimates Wave 3 1200 degrees Celsius Godzilla and Destoroyah enough. But what if you wanted more from your kaiju figure? What if you wanted to bring Meltdown Godzilla and Destoroyah to life through the art of stop motion? Stay tuned for my in-depth stop motion analysis in part 2 of this Super7 double creature feature toy review.